we were doing a pretty late live here tonight. But I wanted to get the update out here for you guys. Here, let's go ahead and bring everything up here, make sure everything is looking good. We do got some new information for y'all here tonight. So, anyways, let me finish getting this set up here real quick, and then we'll do a dive on into it. I do want to pull up the chat here so I can actually see what everybody is saying. But anyways, everybody, I hope everyone's had a great day today. I hope everyone's been doing well. Let's see here. We should be pretty good. All right. But yeah, I hope you guys have been doing well. What's up, Western? Good to see ya. Hope you're doing good, my friend. Anyways, so we have some new updates. We have a brand new cone that just came out here from the Hurricane Center. So not so good news. Jamaica, we got a big problem now. Jamaica really needs to start preparing for this system, as you know, they're going to have some pretty catastrophic impacts more than likely. So everybody who lives out in Jamaica really needs to start preparing for this system, as you know, they're likely going to get some pretty nasty conditions out there. What's up, Theodore? Good to see you. Saying hello, Andrew. What's up, my friend? Hope you're doing well. But yeah, we definitely need my folks up there in Jamaica to be watching this here very closely. So let's actually bring up the Hurricane Center here. I do want to bring it up. So Melissa actually lost a little bit of strength here. You know, it's like we mentioned yesterday, it's actually battling a little bit of upper level wind shear. But the thing is that it's not going to last much longer. And the storm is really going to start to pick up here. What's up, Wolf Gamer? Good to see ya. It's been a minute. Hope you're doing well. But yeah, so definitely need to be on the lookout here for my folks in Jamaica. So the Hurricane Center, they actually upgraded. So before it was a tropical storm watch for Jamaica. Now it's a tropical storm warning. And on top of it, they issued a hurricane watch. Would not be surprised if this eventually becomes a hurricane warning. We do also have tropical storm warnings in effect for southern Haiti. Those hurricane watches are still in effect down there as well. What's up, Misty? Good to see you. So definitely we need to start preparing for the system. So if you know anybody out there in Jamaica, if you know anybody who's going there, who lives there, if you're there, just be sure to be, you know, getting ready for the storm. We need to start, you know, we definitely need to start preparing for it. Misty says they got hurricane warnings already on WeatherWise. So that's actually out in the waters. Those are hurricane warnings for the waters. That is not for the land. The one that we were looking at, this is directly from the Hurricane Center. And this is what we're looking at here. So once again, the blue, the dark blue kind of being the tropical storm warnings here that we have in effect, once again, for Jamaica and Haiti, as well as we do have those hurricane watches in the pink here also for Jamaica and Haiti as well. Now, Cuba really needs to start watching this here as well, as eventually I would not be surprised if we start to get some watches and warnings and stuff for Cuba as well. Especially with the latest guidance that we have here. Let's actually bring over the hurricane models. We got a little bit better agreement, still a little iffy though. Overall, there still is a little bit of disagreement, but it's looking a little better than it did yesterday. You can see, you know, over the next little bit, we're going to be moving northwest here. Eventually, you know, there's quite a few models that has the system going right over Jamaica. You know, within the next like 3-4 days or so. And then of course, eventually kind of pulling to the northeast, which, you know, that would put Cuba under the risk here. So, yeah, would not be surprised if eventually Cuba, does get some watches and warnings, and, you know, even the Bahamas should really watch this system as well. You know, we really need a lot of these people to be already starting to prepare for it, you know, especially Jamaica. They are the ones that are under the biggest concern right now. Short to follow, Cuba, you know, once again, Haiti, we do have those warnings in place there as well, tropical storm warnings. And then, like I said, here for the Bahamas, definitely going to need to watch those areas as well, kind of in the extended range. Now, looking at the intensity guidance here, you can see that we are expecting the system to really start picking up some strength here, probably within the next day or so, as you know, those upper level winds are going to start to subside quite a bit. We're going to start to get quite a bit you know, of strength out of the system, as, you know, it's going to be in an environment where there's going to be little to no limitations in which the storm is going to be strengthening. So we are expecting, you kind of see the middle ground has this thing rapidly strengthening well up into major hurricane status, even quite a few models showing category 4. So definitely pretty nasty there overall. So The cone here from the Hurricane Center, they do have the system becoming a Category 4. It looks like here sometime in the evening of the 26th. And that's when it's going to be right up against Jamaica. So there is a few models that does suggest the system going right over Jamaica. And by the time it gets there, it could be a Category 3, maybe a Category 4. You know, given the environment that it's going to be in, this thing could rapidly explode in strength. So definitely need you guys to start preparing here overall. So anyways, what's up, Annette? Good to see ya. What's up, Misty? Saying I think they'll issue some for land soon. What, those warnings? Probably, yeah. I mean, obviously, if trends continue, they're eventually going to do that for sure. Austin says the cone is crazy. Yeah, it's definitely a little bit concerning. You know, a lot of people here are, you know, is inside the cone here. And remember, you know, the cone, this circle here is where the center of the storm could end up. So Jamaica, you can see, is kind of right in the middle of it. And eventually the models do have this thing kind of pulling up, possibly going out there towards Cuba. So definitely honestly need Cuba to start watching this really closely too. You know, Jamaica really needs to start preparing. Same thing for Haiti as well. You know, these areas really need to start getting everything together. Make sure you have, you know, plenty of food, non-perishable. Make sure you have plenty enough water. All of your medicines are together. Important documentation. Make sure that's in your safe spot. Because yeah, this is definitely going to be a pretty nasty storm overall. Jesse says, yo, let's see, with as long as the storm is expected to stall, is there a chance that the models are wrong with shooting up north and drifts westerly in the Gulf? So we do have a lot of guidance that suggests that system eventually going up to the northeast. I would say it's the most common and the most likely scenario. Here's the main hurricane models, and you can see pretty much all of them eventually have it kind of steering up because we have a low pressure system. You know, a cold front coming through southeast U.S., which is going to kind of knock it away from the U.S., which is good. So that scenario is extremely unlikely. You know, also when looking at the members here, this is the GEFS members, you can see that, you know, a lot of them also kind of agree with that system, you know, working westward and finally kind of getting caught up in that, you know, in the warm sector of that cold front and kind of kicking it off here to the northeast. Now, you also got other models like the GEPS, you know, those members as well. Also kind of suggesting that, you know, majority of those members having this thing kind of pull to the northeast. So it's very unlikely that that will be a thing of it going in the Gulf. It's very unlikely that it will, just solely because of that low and that cold front coming through the southeast U.S., which will kind of kick it away here overall. Let's see here. What countries helped Jamaica with hurricane damage? I have no idea, to be honest with you. But anyways, but yeah, we just bottom line, we do need Jamaica to obviously be watching this very closely. So like I mentioned here, you know, right now they have tropical storm warnings in effect. Hurricane watch is also in effect there. And, you know, according to the cone here from the Hurricane Center, the system will likely be a Category 3, Category 4 as it approaches near, if not directly, goes over Jamaica here. So definitely need to be on the lookout. And then, like I said, of course, you know, with that cold front coming through, that'll eventually kick the system up to the northeast, which, you know, that'll actually bring it over Cuba, may cause it to weaken a bit, and then also go over the Bahamas. So the Bahamas need to be on high alert. Same thing for Cuba. Jamaica really needs to prepare for this now. Haiti, same as you guys. I mean, yeah, the system's, you know, still going to be a concern for you guys out in southern Haiti. You know, like we mentioned here, the Hurricane Center, we do have, you know, you can see those warnings in place. You know, tropical storm warnings here in the blue, which that includes southern Haiti. That also includes Jamaica. And those hurricane watches here in the pink also include Jamaica and Haiti, which, you know, I would not be surprised if the watches in Jamaica eventually get upgraded in the warnings here. That will definitely likely occur pretty soon. So we'll definitely look out for that. What's up, Scott? Good to see you. Saying hi, Andrew. Always good to see you. Hard at work. Good to see you too, my friend. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for stopping by. What's up, Misty? Saying Texas and Oklahoma had storms today. Let's see. One tried producing a tornado but failed. Yeah. So I was gonna do coverage, but I decided we're not. Tomorrow we're probably gonna need to because we have a 5% risk for tornadoes tomorrow. So we'll definitely try to be here tomorrow for that. What's up, Quack Attack? Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Let's see here. Not as people in Fort Worth haven't gotten rain yet. Yeah, it's been pretty dry here in Florida too. Actually, we're finally in our dry season here. So speaking of moisture and precipitation, so here's the latest outlook here in terms of a rainfall. So this is from the WPC, or the Weather Prediction Center. So you can see, we have the lower confidence area here kind of in this netted region, due to this unknown of the storm size and all kinds of stuff. There's a lot of uncertainties in terms of exactly how much rain we're going to be seeing with this system. However, it is likely going to be a lot, and as of right now, WPC has, you can see, isolated amounts of 12 inches or more of rainfall for eastern Jamaica, even a little area here, 12 to 16 inches for southern Haiti. Now, this will probably change a little bit by the time, we do get closer to the event for these regions here, but I just want to point out here that, there is going to be a significant amount of rainfall falling with this system, and that's actually going to be one of the main problems here. You guys can see the chart on the right-hand side, kind of showing you exactly how much rain we could see. A lot of the rain is going to be for Jamaica, Haiti. Yeah, those areas are really going to be getting quite a bit. And of course, you got the area out to sea here, which could see, 20 to 30 inches of rain. But luckily, that's going to be out in the water, so, it ain't going to be any concern there. But it's really just for the land areas still seeing well over 12 inches of rain in some areas, which is a huge problem, on top of the potential hurricane conditions we're going to be dealing with out here. The surges, all of that stuff is going to be a massive problem. So once again, Jamaica, this is the time now to start preparing. You need to get ready for this one, because this one could be a very bad storm for you guys. I'm not trying to scare anybody, but I'm just here to let you know now is time to start prepping, because it doesn't look very friendly overall with this system. It's definitely going to need to be watched. And of course, like I mentioned, we now have warnings in place, which is telling us that we need to be taking action now. Watches means watch out for the conditions. Warnings mean take action. And we now have warnings in place for all of Jamaica, tropical storm warnings, hurricane watches also in effect. Would not be surprised if those eventually do get upgraded into hurricane warnings. So also for, like I said, southern Haiti here as well, tropical storm warnings in a place as well, meaning tropical storm conditions is expected, as well as hurricane watches in effect here as well, telling us that hurricane conditions are possible. Not as confident on those materializing in the warnings. Hurricane warnings for Haiti, we'll have to see what happens, but I'm very confident that Jamaica eventually will likely see hurricane warnings in effect, given the latest track with these models and everything like that, having the system go right up to get, right up against, if not right over Jamaica. We're still not sure too much if exactly it's going to make landfall over Jamaica or if it's going to be just kind of a really close swipe by. That's something that we still kind of need to figure out here, and something the models are still not really agreeing on quite yet. So, and actually I can go ahead and show you guys that here. Once again, this is the latest hurricane models here. You can see there's a lot of disagreement still. Definitely not as bad as it was, yesterday whenever we were doing our updates and stuff like that. But you can still see there is a bit of disagreement here. We got some pretty good gaps between these models here, some of them having it going just south of Jamaica, some of them have it going just east of Jamaica, and of course some of them going right over Jamaica. So there's a little bit of uncertainty, but regardless, of whatever happens here, whatever scenario actually plays out, these are all going to be very impactful for these areas. Regardless, just some tracks a little bit more significant for a little bit more of different areas. So anyways, but like I was mentioning here, in the extended range, eventually the system does pull kind of to the northeast here, which, that would have the system kind of go out there by Cuba, also go, potentially over the Bahamas as well. It'll probably lose a little bit of strength as it goes over Cuba, by the time it approaches the Bahamas, but still, some models are having the system still be quite strong by the time it does. So we'll have to look out for that. Now, speaking of models, let's go ahead and dive our way over here into the main hurricane models here. We're going to start off with the HWRF here. This is one of the well-known hurricane models here. So, you never want to trust one model. I'm going to go ahead and give you all that disclaimer. Never take one model too serious. You got to kind of look at them all. But here's the HWRF, showing rapid intensification. Oh, wow. Yeah, this is actually the first time I've seen the 18 UTC. And according to the HWRF, it looks like a possible direct landfall in Jamaica. Pressures down into the upper 920s, lower 930s. That would push this thing well beyond major hurricane status. You can see the infrared view having the eye go right over Jamaica, according to HWRF. Maybe loses a little bit of strength, goes over Cuba, kind of fades out a little bit, but still at this point in time, we are still possibly even a major hurricane still. Obviously we do lose a little bit of strength, due to the, those lower level disruptions there. So we'll definitely need to look out for it. What's up, Sammy? What's up, Jason and Dill? Good to see ya. But yeah, so like I said, definitely is a bit concerning. But yeah, HWRF has a direct landfall in Jamaica being possible. Now, HMON, here's another model here. HMON has, kind of a similar scenario. I mean, it has it, kind of just has it sitting around Jamaica there for a while. I mean, it sits there for quite a bit, which would continuously dump a lot of rainfall for those areas here. But also has that system, making landfall as a potential major hurricane, probably towards like Cat 3, with a pressure equivalent in the lower 950s. And of course, going over Cuba here as well. Now, this is going to be right around the 28th as it approaches Cuba. As it goes over Cuba, will be sometime right around the 28th, possibly. Impacts for Jamaica will probably be anywhere from the 26th to the 27th here. And it's still a little bit unknown exactly what the exact timing, so we'll have to see. There's just a lot of uncertainty still. It's a little bit better than it has been, but just given the complexities of the system here, it makes it pretty difficult for a storm that's barely moving. So HAFSA, this is another model we have here. Now this one, very aggressive actually. This model actually has it squeezing right between eastern Jamaica and western Haiti. You can see, it kind of just narrows its way right between the two areas here. And then, of course, continues working its way down in time. Kind of squeezes, actually, between western Haiti and eastern Cuba. Now, if this was actually to be the case, this could be more of a stronger approach for the Bahamas, because if it kind of squeezes between here, which, it's pretty unlikely at this point, but it could, if it was to make this track here, it would probably keep a lot of its structure, more intact than if it was to go over Cuba, due to the mountains and stuff like that. But if it went, through that little channel there between Haiti and Cuba and went towards the Bahamas, it would be a much stronger system for you guys, because it wouldn't have, really enough room to die down. Now, HAFSB, here's another model, also showing a ridiculously strong hurricane here, kind of showing the same thing, in terms of the track. Has that system kind of brushing against Haiti here. You can see, that's probably where a lot of that tropical storm conditions will be. Then it works its way here to the west a little bit closer to Jamaica. And then, of course, the system does pull to the northeast and kind of goes right there between Haiti and Jamaica again here, or sorry, eastern Cuba and western Haiti. Kind of squeezing in and eventually going over there towards the Bahamas. So that's kind of the main hurricane models, the HFSB, HMON, and HWRF. So that was a handful of those models there. So, hopping back to the main spaghetti models and stuff, you can see this is what we got going on. This is actually the 18 UTC run here overall. And you can see, there is a little bit better agreement than yesterday, but it's still not anywhere where we'd want it to be, because there still is a lot of uncertainty here, but there is a little bit more, trend here, showing that the system, could go further west, either A, over Jamaica completely, or B, just grazing Jamaica. But like I mentioned, either or, it's still going to be very, very impactful for Jamaica in general, which is why it's extremely important that we need to start preparing immediately for Jamaica. So now's the time to start preparing. Make sure you have enough food and water. Once again, non-perishable food. Make sure you have, a good supply of water. Make sure all of your medicines are together. Have a flashlight, extra batteries, pair of shoes, coats, everything that you can think of. Put it in your safe spot. If you're on the beaches, highly recommend to go further inland. Don't want to be on the beaches. That's where a lot of the heaviest of those impacts are going to be. Anyway, so that's that. Definitely need you guys to really prepare for this system, because, this is no joke. We definitely need you guys to start getting ready for this system here overall. So anyway, so here's some of the tropical storm force wind probabilities. I mean, they are pretty darn high right now. Jamaica is already in pretty much a 70 to 90% chance of tropical storm force winds. I mean, yeah, pretty much a given at this point. You guys are definitely going to get hit pretty good. Hurricane wind speed probabilities are still pretty low right now due to the fact of uncertainty, but this will definitely increase over time. Not even concerned about that, not increasing, because it will, just given the nature and everything like that of the system. So anyways, what's up, Scott? Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Hope everything is good with you. Let's see here. What's up, Carrot? Good to see you. Saying, how am I doing? I'm doing pretty good. Just, keeping everybody informed. That's what we're here for. But other than that, I am doing pretty well, my friend. It's good to see you. But anyway, so yeah, so that's that. So hopping back over here to the Hurricane Center's cone, you can see, so these are already hurricane warnings in effect out in the waters, just to alert the boaters, tell them, hey, don't travel in these waters. We're going to have some hurricane conditions. So eventually those will turn into land-based warnings more than likely, especially for Jamaica. Would not be surprised if they eventually get those hurricane warnings here. Probably even tomorrow, or today, I should say at this point, because it's already past midnight here. So, would not be surprised if we do get warnings in place here for today. So anyways, need my folks up in Kingston. I mean, literally the entirety of Jamaica needs to prepare for this system. This system could get pretty close to Kingston, which is, kind of one of the biggest cities in, Jamaica. Once again, everybody here in Jamaica needs to prepare immediately. Once again, we're still not entirely sure if it's going to be a direct landfall or just a close swipe by, but like I mentioned, regardless, it's still going to be significant either way. Still going to be heavy rip currents, still going to be tons of surges, still going to be, lots and lots of water. I mean, once again, hopping back over here to WPC on their forecast here, we do have a lot of potential rainfall. Now, there still is a lot of uncertainty with exactly how much we could see here, but there's a little bit of a view for you guys here from the latest, forecast here from the Weather Prediction Center. And you can see eastern Jamaica has isolated amounts of 12 inches of rain or more. Definitely pretty heavy. Also southern Haiti, even a little spot here of 12 to 16 inches possible for southern Haiti. Now, this is the lower confidence zone, due to the complexity of the storm and, the slow movement of it makes it very difficult to, predict exactly how much rain we could see. So some of these totals could be lower in some areas and they could be absolutely higher in some other areas. So keep that in mind. Anyways, what's up, Sonia? Good to see ya. What's up, Golf Girl? Saying great job as usual. Thank you. I appreciate that. Really appreciate it, my friend. Thank you. Is the UK X2 a bad model? I don't like to consider a model bad or not. I mean, models have their, good and their bad runs. I always like to use them all and, take all of their opinions. What's really important in forecasting is not just, developing a relation to one model. Say, oh, I like this model, but I hate this one. No, you can't do that. You got to take all of them into consideration. You got to be, hey, this model agrees on this, just like this model does, or these models don't agree on what this one does, so we can throw that out. So, it's about finding the common denominator, what makes forecasting, the most accurate, with the models. You got to find the line of best fit. You got to find what they agree on the most, and what they agree on the most is the most likely scenario. Anyway, so that's that. So, once again, here's the latest cone for the people joining us now. Once again, we do have watches and warnings in effect here, which we do have tropical storm warnings in effect for Jamaica. Actually, we'll hop over to the other cone since this one's deciding it doesn't really want to load right now. But yeah, you can see here we do have... tropical storm warnings, which is here in the blue, which that includes the entire island of Jamaica, also southern Haiti. That's there in effect, as you guys can see. Also, the pink, outlines hurricane watches, which you can see right here. So, hurricane watches are in effect saying, hey, hurricane conditions possible, continue to monitor it. And of course, the tropical storm warning says, okay, tropical storm conditions is expected. Prepare immediately. So basically, we need to prepare for tropical storm conditions. Honestly, we need to prepare for hurricane conditions, especially for Jamaica, because like I mentioned, I am not going to be surprised if by the time you guys wake up tomorrow, or at least sometime tomorrow, these get upgraded to hurricane warnings. I think it's definitely going to happen, you know, considering the latest guidance with the models over the last several runs, and just the way that things have been going here, you know, in the observational field. I do believe that we are going to be seeing quite a bit of activity. So, what's up, Brady? Good to see you. But yeah, so we'll definitely keep you guys in the loop here. You know, we'll continue to update you all. You know, definitely we'll be here tomorrow too to keep you guys in the loop with everything. You know, just try not to worry about it. I get it's a little nerve-wracking, but just know we are here for you guys. We'll be here to help keep you guys weather aware and, of course, weather prepared. And if you guys are just so happen to be new here, consider subscribing. That way you guys can stay on top of the weather here, as we'll definitely be here to help you guys out overall. So anyways, but yeah, so one of the biggest concerns with this system, you know, like I said, because it's moving so slow, is going to be a lot of, you know, it's going to be a lot of rain. There's going to be tons and tons of, you know, tons and tons of rainfall, you know, falling with the system because it's not really moving that fast. And, you know, there is still a little bit of low confidence in terms of how much these areas could see, but it could be quite significant. So we need to prepare for the worst here. Let's see, thoughts on the main steering current. So the way the models have been kind of talking with the steering here, as you can see, you know, gradual kind of northwesterly movement here, eventually maybe moving west here within the next, you know, 2 to 3 days or so. And then, of course, we have that frontal system coming down from the southeast United States, you know, trailing that cold front, which could get caught up in the warm sector of the system and kind of pull the system up to the north here. So that's going to be the most likely scenario. I mean, given that not only the majority of the hurricane models suggest this, but also because you know, a lot of the ensembles here do as well. So if we actually hop back over here, so this is the main hurricane model, as you can see. Eventually, you know, we kind of go northwest a little bit. You go right up to Jamaica, you know, either A, a direct landfall in Jamaica, or B, a very close swipe by to Jamaica. Regardless, definitely, you know, going to be very impactful regardless. Then eventually gets caught up in that frontal system. You know, that new air mass comes through and kind of shifts the storm up here to the northeast, going over Cuba. That'll cause a big problem for Cuba. Eventually, likely even going over the Bahamas, which will cause a big problem for them as well. And then eventually kind of carrying further up to the northeast here overall. Do I think it'll hit Florida? No, I don't think it will. There's not really any guidance that suggests it being a concern for Florida. I think it's going to get caught in time by that frontal system coming through that'll steer it up for, you know, towards Cuba and the Bahamas. So I think the United States is probably going to be perfectly fine with this system here. But, you know, other areas are less fortunate, like Jamaica, you know, Cuba, even the Bahamas, I think really need to watch this thing, you know, here too, especially the central and southern Bahamas. I think you guys really need to be watching this here very, very, very closely. You know, more than likely, if the system does go with these paths, you know, kind of what the track is showing us, you know, as it goes over Cuba, given its terrain, it's very mountainous, in which, you know, hurricanes, tropical cyclones are very surface-based systems. You know, they're mostly organized on the surface. I mean, there's, you know, they're pretty vertically stacked. I mean, they're you know, they're organized all throughout the atmosphere, but the lower levels is some of the strongest winds, in which, you know, if you have some terrain that gets in the way, it'll disrupt that flow, which will allow the system to kind of, you know, get a little wobbly, essentially. Causes it to weaken a bit. And that would actually be kind of good, because if it does continue going northeast, it will eventually go over the Bahamas there, which it might be a little bit of a weaker system, but still, models do suggest it's still holding a pretty decent amount of strength as it goes over Cuba, eventually likely going to the Bahamas here. How much time does Cuba have? So Cuba probably still has another, you know, 3, 4, 5 days or so. I mean, there is still, you know, this is kind of showing right around 120 hours out or so. So we still have a little bit more than likely. You know, right now there's no watches or any warnings or anything like that for Cuba, which is good. But I would not be surprised if eventually those do get added. You know, since Jamaica, I mean, Jamaica already has warnings in place. They're not too far off from Cuba here. So anyways, what's up, Jay? What's up? Let's see here. Sandre, I think that's how you say your name, maybe. What's up, Crazy? Oh, well, sorry. I thought you just joined here. Crazy says, let's see. So I do notice they kind of split with most models going towards southern Jamaica. But if it goes down Jamaica Straits, what will the steering currents? Let's see, a high off the east. Well, regardless here, let me show you the big picture here. Let's actually just bring up like the global models like GFS here, just to kind of show you what motions are going to be in play. So basically, we have this system coming through. We actually have another frontal system. Let me actually move the camera so you can see it. We actually have another little frontal system coming through. Now, Jamaica, or the GFS has been a little bit iffy, to be honest with you. I think the hurricane models are probably picking up on this a little bit better. But eventually that cold front coming through would kind of help pull it to the northeast here overall. Remember, this is also one model. If we take a look at the euro here as well, it's good to compare models here. Euro kind of does slip under. Do have a bit of a ridge up there, in the east of the U.S. right now, and relatively shortly here. We'll continue to stay there for a while, but we have that other frontal system coming through, and that'll kind of drag it up here to the north overall. But yeah, Euro kind of agrees in showing the system, really getting quite strong, going right over Cuba, then eventually going out there towards the Bahamas. Euro actually kind of agrees on the system making landfall kind of on the western side. But, to that degree, it's still too early to tell for sure exactly if it's A, going to make landfall, or B, if it's just going to be a really close swipe by. And if it does make landfall, where would it make landfall? It's still too early to tell for that. But regardless of where it ends up, we still need to be watching this thing very closely. Carrot says, can I check the water temps? Yeah, so they haven't really changed much since what we were talking about here yesterday. They are very, very warm. We're talking about 30 degrees Celsius waters, which that's about 87 degrees Fahrenheit. Very, very warm out here. You can see, so the storm is kind of right in here right now. You can see this is in the 30 degrees Celsius margin, super, super warm out here. I mean, it is, there's no limitations with the latent heat here from the water. Definitely a lot of heat will be absorbed into the system. So that's not going to be any concern at all, at least against the system. For the system, yeah, it's pretty concerning. Given the fact that we have really, really warm waters out here. But all throughout Jamaica, through Cuba, we're talking 30 degrees Celsius waters. I mean, even out there by the Bahamas, we're still 29 Celsius, which is still very, very warm. I mean, tropical cyclones need at least 26 degrees Celsius waters to sustain and strengthen, in which, 30 degrees is considered pretty darn hot. So that's not going to be a problem at all. And, given the fact that a lot of that wind shear is going to start to give up here soon, a lot of that upper level winds, it's going to allow for the system to really allow to vertically stack pretty well. And of course, whenever it comes to it, with the moisture and stuff like that as well. I mean, there's still plenty enough moisture with the system here. There's a really big pool of water vapor and just moisture over Central America. The system's just going to kind of get the system's just going to kind of bring all that moisture up here overall. So what's up, Yolan? Good to see ya. Saying hello from Canada. What's up, my friend? Good to see ya. Let's see here. The only reason I asked is because I can't understand a 200 to 700 millibar steering current pretty much going into eastern Jamaica on the Jamaican Strait, but models differ. Yeah, there is a lot of differences in the models here. I mean, not all of them kind of show the same thing. So here is actually some of the wind shear. Actually, we'll pull up the Euro here. You can see a lot of that wind shear is to the north. You have the system down here. It's really in an environment where there's not much wind shear. I mean, right now there is... you can see there's a little bit of wind shear kind of on that northerly edge. That's where we've been seeing some of that northerly wind shear. Eventually, that'll kind of calm down a bit here. System will roll to the west, really pick up some strength, and then, of course, kind of pull its way to the north. Maybe eventually in the long term could run into some more wind shear issues, but, at least by the time it impacts the Caribbean, yeah, there won't be. But yeah, I mean, the system, there's just... really not a lot moving the system right now. I mean, it's just, there's not a lot really kind of pushing the system around. And that's why it's being, really slow right now. I mean, I think it's only moving, what is it moving now? 3 miles an hour? Yeah, so it's only moving north at 3 miles an hour. I mean, it's a little increase since yesterday. We were at 2 miles an hour yesterday, but we're now at 3. So, such a speedy storm. No, I mean, it's very slow. And like I said, it actually weakened a little bit, the system. We were at 50 sustained, now we're at 45. Once again, we're dealing with a little bit of wind shear issues in the upper levels, but that's expected to subside here very soon, within the next day. So Once that happens, that should allow the system to really kind of vertically stack itself nice and neatly, which will get the system really nice and organized. So yeah, that's the most concerning thing is, you know, the environment that it's going to be in for several days. There's not going to be much limitations. You know, there's going to be a lot of gas, there's going to be a lot of full throttle, and not much, you know, holdbacks here. But anyways, but yeah, so hopping back over here, y'all, this is the spaghetti models that we all know and love. And you can see there is still a lot of unknowns with this system. So each one of these numbers represents how many hours out each model has the system at. So for example, this 96, this is, I believe, 4 days out. And this pink model here shows that system being right there at that time. So, and this is the latest model run that just came out, so this is relatively within, you know, these hours here. So anyway, so we work our way down in time. You can see majority, you know, has the system kind of pulling north here, you know, eventually turning to the west, you know, right towards Jamaica. I mean, goes right at Jamaica. Obviously, we have some of the models going east of Jamaica, some of the models going west of Jamaica, and some of the models going right over Jamaica, which kind of puts the line of best fit right there over Jamaica. Now, like I mentioned, regardless of how close the system gets, if it's a direct landfall or if it's just a side swipe, there still is going to be significant problems out here. We're still going to be seeing hurricane conditions more than likely. Like I said, we already do have those tropical storm warnings in effect here, so tropical storm conditions is already expected. But like I said, I would not be surprised if that does turn into hurricane warnings here by today, actually. Would not be surprised at all. And then, of course, you know, you have some more models. These are not the hurricane models, but these are ensembles. You know, this is the GFS or the GEFS members here. You can see just a bunch of kind of runs here. You can see all scattered out. And majority of the runs obviously do have this thing in the long term, eventually getting caught up into that air mass that comes down from the southeast and eventually kind of takes the storm to the northeast. But like I said, that's kind of a big problem, though, because that'll allow the system to, you know, after it passes through Jamaica, it would allow the system to likely make landfall in Cuba and then eventually likely make landfall in the Bahamas. So this is going to be a pretty impactful storm in which we need everybody out there to be preparing. You know, once again, if you're out there in Jamaica, if you're out there in, I mean, even Haiti, Haiti, Jamaica, Cuba, the Bahamas, we need to start watching this and we need to start preparing even for a lot of these areas here. Now, you know, the direct areas of landfall, once again, is too early to tell, but, you know, we're definitely getting a little bit more narrowed every time that we get a model run coming through, so we're getting a little bit more information here. So, anyways, here's the current sat view. I mean, you can see it's convecting pretty heavily right now. I mean, it's not really moving. It's really not moving. The wind shear is actually starting to subside quite a bit here. You can actually see, if we look at the west side of the storm here, if you look closely, you see two different movements. You see some of that counterclockwise rotation going to, you know, from north to south here. You see that counterclockwise flow. And then if you look closely, you can actually see some of the winds going up clockwise. So that's actually the upper level winds that are going clockwise. That's the venting. So what air gets sucked into the storm, kind of like a corkscrew, it goes out clockwise. So it goes in counterclockwise, out clockwise. So that's telling us that the system is starting to organize itself already pretty well. So the system is already starting to strengthen from what it looks like. Still, convection is not super organized. I mean, you can see a lot of that convection is still kind of bubbling all over the place, but it shouldn't take much time at all for the system to really kind of pick up in strength here. But yeah, I mean, that is a clear indicator that the system is trying to really organize itself pretty well. And, you know, yesterday, whenever we were looking at it, we had a lot of wind shear that was kind of going from the west to the east here. You know, overall, you guys probably hear my cat in the background. Here, let me let him in. Okay. But anyways, but yeah, so like I mentioned, there is going to be quite a bit of, you know, strengthening over the next few days here. Yeah, Texas, that was my cat. He's a baby. Oh my gosh, dude, come here. Come here. I don't even know where he went. But anyways, but yeah, so like I mentioned, you know, definitely looking a bit better here in terms of, you know, the organization and stuff like that. So models looking a little better than they did yesterday. Still a bit of disagreement here overall. in which we'll definitely need to look out there. What are you doing, dude? Hold on a second, y'all. I got my cat. He wanted some attention, so I gotta hold this cat while I forecast here. But anyways, but yeah, there's definitely a little bit better agreement here in the models, since yesterday. So definitely we'll be watching this, over the next couple days. We'll keep you guys in the loop with everything. Cat dad struggles, yeah, for real. But anyways, but yeah, so here's the intensity guidance here from the Hurricane Center. I mean, you can see there is still a pretty big spread here, but, at least within the next 24 to 48 hours, you can see a lot of the models do have the system picking up some strength here. The system easily getting into major hurricane status. And, once again, the Hurricane Center, we already have the system here getting up to Cat 4, which we'll go ahead and hop you guys over to the cone here again. The latest cone you can still see is very large, meaning that the center of the storm could go anywhere in this circle here. But the kind of median, the line of best fit has that system, rubbing right against Jamaica, if not right over Jamaica here. And it does have the system, becoming a Category 3 major hurricane here right around the morning of the 26th. Overall, has it becoming a Category 4 here kind of for the evening of the 26th. And just, still gradually picking up strength. And by the time that we do approach out here kind of by southwestern or out there right next to Jamaica, the forecast here from the Hurricane Center does have the system getting right around 145 mile an hour sustained, with gusts right up to 175 miles per hour. That's why this is very significant, and that Jamaica needs to start preparing now. We definitely do need you guys to, be watching this system very closely, because Jamaica could seriously be, impacted heavily with this system regardless. So, anyways, but if you guys have any questions, feel free to let us know. Go ahead and leave them down in the comments. My cat is literally rubbing up against my tripod here, so he's being a bit of a mess. But anyways, yeah, I mean, if you guys have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. If there's anything specifically you guys want me to look at or talk about, like I said, I'm here for you. I just want to keep you guys safe. That's the reason of this whole channel, is just to, keep you guys up to date. Like I mentioned, I really don't ask for anything in return. I just, have a big passion for weather, and I just want to help out as many people as possible. It's just, I really enjoy, forecasting, and I just want to make sure that everybody is staying safe out there, and, just staying weather aware. But yeah, I mean, if you guys have any questions at all, yeah, please don't hesitate to ask, as I'll be here for you guys overall. So anyways, this cat, dude. This is Jet. He is my, oh, come here, buddy. I don't know if I can show you him for, that's my cat. That's Jet. Let's see here. Ernesto says, how many hours might they expect to be Category 4 winds? Such a slow movement. That's awful. Well, when do you expect the system to become a Cat 4? They have it becoming a Cat 4 here by the evening of the 26th. But do you mean like how long would those conditions last? Because of its slow speed, I mean, it's going to last probably for quite a while, unfortunately. That's actually another thing that's significant, is the fact that, the system is moving so slow that it could just sit over these areas for a long period of time, possibly having, major hurricane force winds and stuff like that. So that's also another really big concern. I mean, there's several problems here. I mean, we have like I said, we have a really big issue with water with the system, because of its slow movement. It could really drive a lot of rainfall. I mean, we could see tons and tons of rain being dumped, across these islands out here, not just in Jamaica, but also like Haiti and, Cuba. I mean, we could see tons of rainfall falling out here. That's actually one of many concerns. Of course, we have the rip current concern, you know, the surge concern, the wind concern. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of things that we need to prep for here overall. What's the deal with the Texas weather shenanigans? So we had a little bit of severe weather going on out there, a little bit off topic from the tropics. We do actually have a level 2 threat still in effect here. Tomorrow, we actually have a really big threat, a level 2 threat up here in Texas. We'll be live tomorrow. We actually do have a 5% chance for tornadoes here for kind of central, a little bit of western Texas. So definitely going to be live tomorrow. We do have a 15% wind threat as well, possible wind gusts between 60 and 70 miles an hour. Also a 15% hail threat, possibility for some hail between 1 to 2 inches in diameter here overall. So yeah, we're definitely going to be live tomorrow. I do plan to, you know, on this overall. So we'll keep you guys posted with that as well. We got quite a bit of stuff going on here. Definitely quite a bit of activity. Things are, you know, picking up quite a bit. I mean, of course, we do have, you know, the tropics kicking up here. You know, not only do we have the tropics going, but we also have a little bit of severe weather and stuff like that going as well. So we'll definitely keep an eye out there for that. But anyways, let's see. Ernesto says, it's been so dry here in Texas. I haven't seen rain in 2 months, literally. Wow, dude. Here, since we're talking about rain and stuff, I guess I'll go ahead and bring up our excessive rainfall. Or actually, you know what? No, our drought monitor. Yeah, that's what I wanted to look at here. Here we go. I mean, yeah, you can see that bit of Texas is definitely pretty dry, especially out there by like Austin and San Antonio area. It's been pretty dry across a lot of the country, actually. You know, a lot of the southeast, a lot of the mid-Atlantic, northeast, Midwest even. The only areas that's really not super dry is the plains. You know, a lot of Kansas, North and South Dakota, bits of Nebraska are pretty, you know, pretty good. Portions of California, too, believe it or not, are actually not in droughts. But yeah, a lot of the country, I mean, you can see does have some pretty decent dryness going on here. But yeah, but I tell you what, though, looking at the excessive rainfall outlook here, like we were just looking at here a second ago, you know, tomorrow we actually do have a level 2 threat for excessive rainfall. So a big flooding threat here actually tomorrow for bits of Texas and Oklahoma. Total rainfall, so this is tomorrow. We could pick up a couple of inches out there by Dallas, potentially. Oklahoma City, maybe 1.5 inches, 2 inches or so. Houston, maybe about 1.5 to 2 inches as well. Yeah, it really ranges all over the place. But, yeah, I mean, there is some rain coming in, so you guys will probably see some of that here tomorrow. Let me actually bring up the models here, which we'll look at that real quickly since I guess we're talking about severe weather. So let me bring this up real quickly for y'all. But yeah, I mean, if we zoom in here, let me zoom in just a bit. So, oh, there's my cat. You want out now? There you go. This cat's such a baby, dude. Anyways, but yeah, HRRR, you know, shows the storm's really starting to fire off here. We're kind of around the evening tomorrow. This is showing like 4 p.m. Eastern, so 3 Central. Let's do 0 UTC. Yeah, it kind of has a long linear system going through tomorrow that we'll have to, that we'll need to look out for. He said, please. Yeah, he did, didn't he? But it has that line kind of approaching central Texas, kind of late, though. You know, this is tomorrow evening, 11 p.m. And then, of course, it goes overnight, even out there by, like, Houston here, like 5 a.m. or so. So, yeah, we'll do some coverage for you guys tomorrow. I'll be sure to be here for you guys. You know, y'all know I'm here for you. We'll keep you in the loop. But anyways, back to tropics, though. Like I mentioned, that's kind of our most significant issue right now in the weather world out here. You know, once again, obviously Jamaica, we need you guys to really start preparing for this immediately. Like I mentioned, if any of you guys know anybody who's in Jamaica, who lives out there, who's visiting there, if you're there, I mean, we need to prepare immediately. We need to start prepping now. We need we need non-perishable foods. We need water. We need our medicines. We need clothes, shoes, flashlights, extra batteries, whatever. Put all that stuff in your safe spot because, like I mentioned, warnings are already out. So tropical storm warnings are already issued for Jamaica. Same thing for southern Haiti, too, tropical storm warnings, but also hurricane watches are in effect. Like I mentioned, those are likely going to be upgraded to warnings here later today. At this point in time, I am 95% confident that Jamaica will be under hurricane conditions. I'm very confident in that. The models have been very, 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 much in agreement, essentially, of either a direct landfall in Jamaica, or B, a very close call. Like I said, either way, there's going to be some significant conditions out there in Jamaica. Now, Haiti, I don't know if those are ever going to become hurricane warnings. They are watches, so we'll see what happens, but I am more confident on Jamaica probably getting some of the worst of it overall. But then eventually, the system in the long range is expected to possibly kind of pull more to the north with a frontal system coming off the southeast U.S. coast, in which, we could see, some hurricane conditions possibly even for, Cuba and maybe even the Bahamas in the extended range, which models are kind of pointing towards. And they have actually been pointing towards it for a little bit. Here's the main hurricane models. You can see, kind of suggesting, the system rolling its way through Jamaica, turning, going through Cuba, and then going through the Bahamas, which seems to be the most likely scenario as of right now. Let's see here. Crazy says, is Haiti going to be under a major flood threat? So Haiti does have a big concern for flooding, absolutely. So if we actually look at that real quickly, I'll go ahead and bring this up again for you guys. So here's our rainfall map from the Weather Prediction Center. So especially the southern sides of Haiti, I mean, you can see we do have some areas here that's even equivalent to 12 to 16 inches of rain on the southwestern side. Now, there is a pretty low amount of confidence with that. Just given the uncertainties in the track and, how long the system will sit and all that stuff, there is a lot of uncertainties there. But southern Haiti is, yes, absolutely in a significant flooding threat, in which, definitely got to prepare for that, especially if you're in a low-lying spot. I know a lot of these areas are actually pretty mountainous, so especially the valleys could be really susceptible to flooding. Just given the fact that all that water kind of runs down the slopes and goes into the valleys, and eventually that's got to go somewhere. All the water's got to go somewhere. So, especially if you live in the valleys, I would even consider evacuating if you're in some of these areas here. Once again, the Weather Prediction Center actually pointed towards East Jamaica and said we could have isolated amounts of 12 inches, so a foot of rain or more, which is, really big concern. Texas says, I wouldn't want to book a flight anywhere around there right now. Yeah, honestly, I wouldn't either. I'd recommend avoiding it if possible if you guys have any plans to go out there, for sure. Texas says mudslides and landslides are pretty big threats as well. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Especially when you get the amount of rainfall that we're possibly going to be seeing here. Yeah, that's definitely going to be a big problem. Once again, you guys can kind of map it yourself here. You guys can see the table on the right there. You can kind of see where that's at. So, like I mentioned, there is still a lot of uncertainty with the accumulations and, but just know some areas could see much more rain and some areas could see little. So some areas could see more, some areas could see less than the forecast shows. And, once again, I will remind you that it is a low confidence zone because of the uncertainties. If the system gets a little closer to like Jamaica, I would not be surprised if that totals really goes up a lot. I guarantee it'll be a lot more significantly different than it is today than it will be later on. Well, as it is now, as it will be later today. I'm sure there'll be huge changes by then because, as time goes on, not only do we see what happens in real time, but we also kind of learn more about it. More model data comes through and all that stuff. Let me actually look at the hurricane hunters. I don't think they're out in the storm right now, but we'll look. It's obviously good to just check on them and see if they're actually in the storm. Actually, they finished a mission here a while back, it looks like. Let's see here. Yeah, they did some flying. It looks like they took off out of... where is that at? Is that part of the Bahamas, I'm assuming? Yeah, then they went down and kind of went through. Or maybe they took off... Oh, I think they might have took off from Jamaica, actually. And then they probably went through. Either vice versa. They either came from this area or... Yeah, whatever. Yeah, but they did find that the storm was a little bit weaker because it's, kind of trying to organize itself right now. It looks like they found flight level winds of about 30 knots. They don't really have any data there on the surface winds, so I guess they didn't have that part active. But a lot of the drop zones, though, look pretty saturated, which... it tells us there's a lot of moisture in the environment, which is what the storm needs, Yeah, I mean, that's not going to be much of an issue at all either. You know, first of all, the waters out there, like we mentioned, are 30 degrees Celsius. I mean, they are boiling. I mean, not literally, but, you know, figuratively. They are very, very, very warm. And then, of course, you know, wind shear, that's subsiding right now. You know, that'll be really going down, which will allow the storm to, you know, kind of really organize itself. And then, of course, moisture-wise, you know, there's a big pool of moisture down by Central America that the system just kind of sucking in here. So it doesn't seem to be moisture deficient. Matter of fact, it'll be moisture efficient. It has plenty enough moisture. There's a lot of dry air in the Gulf here, but that really probably wouldn't be any concern for the system just because of how much moisture there is in the Central America region out by Panama and stuff. All of that's just going to be kind of getting sucked up into the system here overall. Let's see. I'm kind of curious if this tropic pattern is going to keep deflecting these threats through the rest of the season for the U.S. You know, Texas, sometimes, you know, in this pattern, it could be beneficial and it could be bad. For an example, you know, sometimes these cold fronts can actually spark off tropical activity. Sometimes the trailing cold fronts can actually initiate storms, which can, you know, get convection going, which can, you know, essentially get tropical cyclones moving. Especially if that happens in the Gulf, then that could be a problem. Like kind of like Milton. I believe Milton developed from a frontal system, and it developed in the Gulf late season, and then went over Florida. You know, and sometimes you have these systems that, you know, you have a storm coming in, and then you have a cold front rolls through, which kind of completely deflects the system, which that's kind of what we're expected to see here. You know, like I mentioned, I don't expect to see any big concerns for the United States at all. However, the Caribbean, I'm very concerned for, yes, especially Jamaica, especially Cuba, Haiti, even the Bahamas, I'm a little concerned for. You know, all those areas I definitely am a little bit concerned about, you know, just given the way that things are looking. But, you know, this storm, like I mentioned, is kind of in a prime environment here. I mean, we have, you know, we have everything a storm needs to rapidly intensify. I mean, we have little to no wind shear. So wind's acting against the storm to disorganize the structure. That does not seem to be an issue. So we have little to no wind shear, which is good for the storm, bad for us. We have plentiful amount of moisture, tons of moisture throughout the atmosphere, which is good for the storm, which allows convection. If it was dry, there'd be little to no convection, but there's plentiful amounts of moisture available, so that's 2 for 2. And then, of course, lastly, the majority, you know, the waters out there is releasing a lot of heat. I mean, we're talking 30 degrees Celsius sea surface temperature waters out there, which is like 87 Fahrenheit, very, very warm waters. So a lot of that heat as well is going to be absorbed into that system. So that's kind of 3 for 3, you know what I'm saying? So we have really all the main things you need for tropical cyclone formation to occur, you know, plus this wave of storms that's already convecting. So, I mean, everything's already there. You know, we have the wave, we have the moisture, we have less wind shear, and tons of warm water. So that's just everything a system needs to develop in. So, and of course, you know, with the system moving very slowly and being so close to proximity of land, that just, yeah, that makes it pretty concerning. Let's see, it's crazy how dry it is in the Gulf. Yeah, the Gulf's pretty dry right now. Probably won't last for super, super long. I mean, well, actually, we have a little bit of moisture coming in from that other frontal system for the northern Gulf anyways. But yeah, I mean, the Gulf is definitely pretty dry right now. But that probably won't cause any issues for the system itself because, like I said, it's kind of stealing a lot of moisture from Central America, so it's pulling the moisture from there. So, I mean, if I grab a sounding, you can see that, you know, the dew point line here, so this is at a vertical perspective of the atmosphere. So this is ground level down here. This is upper level atmosphere. Temperatures in red, this is your temperature in Celsius, and they go at a diagonal, by the way. They're not directly straight up and down. But so 0 degrees Celsius are freezing points. You can see this matches right here. Freezing points about 600 millibar height equivalent, which is several thousand feet up. But anyways, but yeah, so this is basically just a vertical perspective. The green is your dew point temperature. Red's your temperature. Closer your dew point and your normal temperature is, you know, the higher the humidity, the more water vapor there is, more moisture. So you can see that they're pretty close to each other. Now, for example, in the Gulf, you can see, you know, huge gaps between our dew points and our temperature line here. So this is a lot of dry air. Just a little bit of something for y'all if you learned something new, maybe. Let's see here. Good thing the models show correctly that Melissa will be pushing away from the U.S. due to high pressure in the west. Yeah, definitely. you know, with that system coming down here, you know, that frontal system, you can actually see that's going to be steering the storm up. You see that kind of push, because if that frontal system wasn't there, the system would probably just continue rolling westward. But since we have this, you know, this front here, you can see this new air mass, you know, this really dry air mass coming down, this high pressure, you know, air mass coming down from up north. You know, that's going to kind of knock the system out and kind of push it away from the U.S., you know, kind of acting as a shield. So that'll definitely be good. You know, which would definitely be very beneficial for the United States, but that kind of throws areas like Cuba under the bus, you know, kind of throws like Cuba and the Bahamas under the bus, because, you know, they're going to be kind of, the system's going to be kind of nudging them, or the system, that frontal system's going to be kind of nudging the storm into those regions, which is just, you know, going to make those areas a big problem. So, yeah, I mean, it's kind of a trade-off, though. It's unfortunate that the system wouldn't just continue west and eventually engulf some of this dry air, which, you know, it's kind of the worst case scenario, unfortunately. But anyways, hopping back to like some of these other models, here's the HWRF, one of the main hurricane models that we always look at here. So HWRF, you know, this model kind of is pretty significant. You know, it has a system making landfall here in Jamaica. Now, like I mentioned, you know, direct landfall in Jamaica is still unknown. You know, there is a good potential of it occurring. Regardless, the system is likely going to be right on Jamaica's doorstep, meaning there likely is going to be significant impacts, regardless of if it's a direct landfall or if it's just a really close swipe by. Either or, there still is going to be some really nasty conditions out there, more than likely. And you can see here at the point of landfall, this is kind of showing for the afternoon of the 26th. Remember, this is one model takes, so don't take this too serious. You know, this could be a little different. But, you know, you can see this would be kind of right around the afternoon of the 26th, according to the HWRF. And then, of course, you know, we continue throughout the 26th, 27th. Then we go into the 28th, and by the time we kind of approach the late 27th, early 28th, the system will be out there kind of by Cuba. And then, of course, you know, it'll be kind of exiting Cuba right around the afternoon, evening of the 28th here, and approaching the Bahamas around that time. So a little bit of a timing perspective, at least from the HWRF. Now, timing would be significantly different. Say if the system was to trail further west, that would delay its approach to Cuba. And there would be a whole different outcome in terms of, you know, where the system would ultimately end up here. So here's the HMON here overall, and you can see, you know, the system. Did I say HMON? Sorry, this is HEFSA. This shows the system squeezing right there, just east of Jamaica, just west of Haiti. You know, this would bring significant concerns for not only Jamaica, but also Haiti as well. Then it has the system kind of squeezing between eastern Cuba and western Haiti here, and eventually working its way out there towards the Bahamas. So, you know, obviously from the two models we just looked at, there's two different scenarios here, you know, two total different outcomes. You know, the models are still very disorganized in terms of, you know, where the system's going to track. And the reason it's still so disorganized is because of how slow the storm is moving. You know, a slow-moving storm is very difficult for models to, you know, pick up on, because, you know, these systems are sitting ducks. I mean, they just sit there, and, you know, a little gust of wind could really throw the system off a different direction. So, you know, that's what I'm saying. It's just, that's why the models are still kind of all over the place here. But regardless, we do know that the system is going to linger in this area for quite a few days because of that lack of movement, in which, you know, that's going to bring some concerns of its own, with the system remaining over an area for a long period of time, you know, for a prolonged period of time, because that allows for tons of water to fall, you know, tons of rainfall, which could bring some huge flooding concerns. Also could bring, you know, like we mentioned, landslides, mudslides, could be an issue because of the amount of rainfall we're going to be seeing here. So, you know, a lot of potential impacts. And of course, you know, with the system sitting really close to these areas of land, you know, tons of rip currents, tons of surges, huge waves, you know, damaging winds, of course, you know, really significant winds and stuff like that will just continually batter these areas here. So definitely pretty concerning. Now, I do plan on doing coverage on the system, which I definitely will. You know, as it kind of approaches here, we'll definitely be here. But anyways, here's the satellite imagery. This is what the storm looks like now. You can kind of see, I mean, it's convecting pretty good. Like we mentioned here a few minutes ago, you can actually see, you know, we got two vectors here. Our upper level winds are moving clockwise, which is good for tropical cyclones, indicating there's good venting going on. And of course, you got that counterclockwise circulation here as well. So the lower level winds are going counterclockwise, at least here in the northern hemisphere with these lows. So that's indicating some pretty good circulation going on here. And also the upper level winds you can see going clockwise. So that's actually indicating that we're getting not only good inflow, but also good outflow of the storm system, which is allowing for the storm to kind of organize itself, because beforehand it wasn't having proper venting due to that upper level wind shear that was happening. We had a lot of really strong upper level winds that were going from west to east, which was kind of disrupting that outflow, which was kind of, you know, causing the storm to spit and sputter a bit. But now that it's, you know, now that the wind shear is let up in the upper levels, it is allowing for the system to properly vent and properly allow for the system to, you know, kind of, you know, essentially organize itself to where it needs to be overall. So anyways, but yeah. But that's it right now. I mean, like I mentioned, you know, convection is still a little all over the place. I mean, it's still got some work to do. But remember, I mean, it is just now coming out of that wind shear environment in which, you know, we're talking, you know, rapid intensification probably from this point forward here, considering that wind shear has slowed down quite a lot. And, you know, that'll allow for the system to pick up a lot of strength here overall. So anyways, but that's what's going on there with it, y'all. If you guys have any questions, leave it down in the chat. But yeah, we're probably going to roll off here in a few minutes because, you know, it's getting kind of late here. It's 1 a.m. in Eastern time, so this will be a good time to ask if y'all have any questions. Just go ahead and throw them down in the chat. If you're new here, consider subscribing. Maybe leaving a like. It'll be greatly, greatly appreciated. You know, like I mentioned, y'all, just please be careful. Please be safe. And, you know, we'll be here for you guys. We'll continue giving you guys updates on everything. We'll, you know, keep you guys in the loop. And we'll make sure that you guys are staying safe and staying weather aware and all that stuff. So, but yeah, I mean, like I mentioned, bottom line, you know, I do need my folks, you know, in the, you know, in Jamaica, as well as in southern Haiti, even, you know, kind of central southern Cuba to really start preparing for the system here. Even the Bahamas, it would not hurt to really watch out for those areas here. You know, definitely is going to be very, very important that you guys are watching this closely. All right, see you later, Texas. Thank you for joining us. See you later, Samuel. Thank you, guys. All right, everybody. Well, if you're new to the channel, consider leaving a like, hitting that subscribe button. It'll be greatly appreciated. And, you know, consider sharing this maybe with a friend or a family member here too, just to help spread the awareness. And, you know, y'all just please be careful out there. Please be safe. And we'll get you guys more updates here on this tomorrow. So by the time we do an update for you guys tomorrow, we'll have some new information, not only from the Hurricane Center, but also from the weather models and everything like that. So we'll have a lot more data here for you guys. But all right, everybody. Well, you guys take care. Have a wonderful rest of your night. Please be careful. Try not to worry about it too much. And we'll see you guys here in the next one. Peace out, my friends. See ya later on.